So beautiful, Trilla. Thanks for sharing that. So Christa, we wrote this song about the story of Elizabeth, actually. We were given her as a prompt, and I remember just relating so much to her story and actually just being able to open up with you guys in the writer's room and get really vulnerable with even my own story. Particularly the idea of hope for me was such a poignant thing because for years, my husband and I have struggled to have kids and don't know what the Lord's plan for that is. And I remember sharing with you guys, and I'm sharing with everybody, but it was a very personal moment. No, but I think that this is relatable, this idea that it's easier to just not hope for something rather than to hope for it and be disappointed. And I remember just sharing that and just drawing from Elizabeth's strength and recognize it. Like a lot of times we only hear the end of her story. We only hear like when she was pregnant and when her hope was fulfilled, but we forget all these years of probably dealing with hopelessness and shame and judgment from people around her. And so that's why one of my favorite parts in this song is in the refrain when it says, "I am safe to hope. I am safe to hope." Because the Lord is faithful and he's good. And even though he might not be taking us down the road that we want to in the timing that we want, we're safe to hope.
Yeah, I remember your vulnerability in that writing session, and Kelly too, and how much time we spent not writing a song. Officially, we were sharing stories, which is what happens. That's the real beauty, it's the process. And in fact, if we could transfer that over to life as a metaphor, then we would probably enjoy the journey a lot more. But we did talk about how we tend to conflate hope with the fulfillment of precise expectations of what that's going to look like and how we're going to get there. And it's like we are born into this world, and before long, we've created this whole movie in our minds of the things we'd like to experience and how that's going to play out. And we plug it into our GPS, and we're like, okay, clearly I know the most expedient way to get from point A to point B. And 100% of the time, we find ourselves on a road that not only it doesn't feel scenic in a good way. It feels like we were talking about yesterday. It just feels plain hard, and we've all been there, you know. And then we shared how the more we can lean into a trust of the process and a trust of the journey, the more present we become, and suddenly our eyes become open not just to the lovely little things that are planted along the roadside, but to what's being planted in us that would probably never have been called out on an easier road. Sarah, the pencil thrown into the middle of the room, that's what life is bringing us. That's what love and kindness is bringing us. And so we got that far. We had most of the song written, but we did not have that last line.
We didn't.
And we were like, where are we going? Where is this road taking us? Where is this songwriting road taking us? And then I remembered this conversation led by a friend of mine, Jeff Walzer, several years before, where he had shared missed flights, extra long Uber ride, all this frustration. And then it turned into a conversation that needed to happen with this particular Uber driver and all of that. And his last line of his little talk was, "You guys, that wasn't plan B. The detour was the road." And I was sharing this story, and she's like, that's our last line. So, yeah.
And that's what it is.
So, yeah.
Thank you.